Father, we give you praise, we worship, we adore you. Thank you, Father, for a blessed day that you have brought us into. Even as we go into classes this hour, we ask that you give us understanding in the name of Jesus. In Jesus' mighty name we are praying. Amen.
Amen.
All right. You are welcome once again. We are going to be looking at building details. Our topic for discussion is going to be building details. See, when we say building details, what are we referring to? When we say building details, what are we talking about? I want to hear your own view, because I know we have talked about this building. We have done building drawing before the school closed, and I know you have an idea. So let me hear from you. What's building detail? What do you understand by the word building details?
That is understand the components of building and stuff like that.
Understand the components of building.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Let's look at what building details are. Building detail from, can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. So building details are namely foundation, walls, and openings, floors, roof. They are actually components, like you said, they are components of the building. So, but for the purpose of this class, we are going to be looking at foundation. For the purpose of this class, we are going to be considering what? Foundation.
Foundation.
Yes. So what is foundation from your own explanation, using your own definition? What do you understand by the word foundation?
Our foundation is the
You are laughing.
Sir, foundation is the
yes.
Core so,
using
sir,
your own language. Okay, listen to me. Have you seen where a foundation is being laid before? Have you?
Yes, sir.
All right. Describe to me how foundation is being done. I just want description from you. Let me know you have it. Let me understand that you have the knowledge of what we are talking about.
The foundation is like the under of the main building, where they mix all the concrete, the sand to make it solid for the building to stand firm.
All right. It's not a bad description anyway. Foundation is the lowest load-bearing part of a building. Foundation is the lowest load-bearing part of a building. It is typically below the ground level. A foundation is the load-bearing part of a building, and it is always buried under the ground, below the ground level. You notice that when you are to construct a building, are you with me? Igwisi, your video is not, I'm not seeing you. Igwisi. All right. Foundation is the lowest load-bearing part of a building. It is typically below the ground level. Now, when you are to construct a building, the first thing you do is to excavate based on the plan of the building. You excavate the ground based on the plan of the building. Now, once you excavate the ground, then you start putting all the necessary members that are required for the foundation. And reason is because it is the lowest, it is the load-bearing part of the building. Foundation bears the load of the building. No matter the kind of structure you are going to put in place, you need a foundation to be able to what? To carry that load. So by definition, foundation is the lowest load-bearing part of a building, and it is typically below the ground level. It is typically below the ground level.
So, please,
All right.
can you go to the other slide?
Is said?
Please, can you go to the other slide? I didn't see. I didn't hear.
All right. I said we are talking about. All right. Before your arrival, we are talking about building details, and we know that the components, there are components joined together to form that building details, and these are foundation, walls and opening, floors and roof. Those are the things we call the building details. Now, for the purpose of this class, we are considering foundation, because without foundation, no structure can stand. True or false? Yes,
True.
without foundation, no structure can stand. So, and that is why we need to start with what? With foundation. And by definition, we say what? Foundation is the lowest load-bearing part of a building. The main word there is load-bearing. It means the function of a foundation is to bear load. So, please, who is distracting you there? I need your attention. The foundation, the essence of the foundation is to what? Is to bear load. Are you okay with that, Igusi?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Good. Now, the choice of foundation depends on the following factor. How do you choose the kind, knowing that we have different kind of foundation? Knowing that we have different types of foundation, how do we choose our foundation? How do we choose the kind of foundation that we need to put in place for the kind of structure that we want to erect? Now, the first thing is the nature of the ground. You have to consider the nature of the ground in which the structure is to be erected. You have to look at the nature of the ground. How does it look like? What are the things you notice on the ground? So you have to consider that factor. Then, after you have checked the structure, the nature of the ground, then you look at the height of the proposed structure. You look at the height of the proposed structure. What is the height? Remember that we say foundation is the load-bearing part of the building. So you need to consider the height of the structure, because the higher the structure, the more the weight. So you consider the height of the proposed structure. Then the third one is anticipated load. The anticipated load. What do we mean by the anticipated load? Now, the structure you are putting in place, is it an office that will have that a lot of people will come to occupy? Or is it just a building that is meant for possibly maybe 3 or 4 people? Or is it a structure that will be used for business? So all these factors you need them in place for you to choose the kind of foundation you are going to use. Then another thing is the location of the site. The location of the site. So these 4 factors must be considered when you are to choose the kind of foundation that you need. The kind of foundation that you need for the proposed structure. The first factor we say is the nature of the ground. The kind of soil that you have there. Is the place a waterlogged place? Then the second one we say height. What is the height of the proposed building? The third one will say the anticipated load. And the last one is the location of the site. The location of the site. Now, you may ask question, why are we considering the location of the site? We need to consider the location of the site. There are places that are very close to possibly quarry where you notice that they break stone continuously, and that the sound that comes from there will always affect the structure. So you need to look at the location of the site. The next thing we are going to look at is the purpose of foundation. What is actually the purpose of foundation? What is actually the purpose of foundation? Now, let me hear from you. What do you think is the purpose of foundation? Igwisi.
To keep the building firm.
To keep the building firm. Okay. Olorosi, what about you? We have talked that we have said something like about that now.
It's just the same thing now, to keep the building firm.
No, I want to hear your own, not just the same thing. Igwisi said to make the building firm. Then what about you? I didn't use that language firm, but Igwisi used it. So I want to hear.
Sorry, I can change the language.
All right. The three most important purposes are: one, to bear the load of the building. I've said this now. To bear, from the definition, we say is the load-bearing part of the structure, and it is normal. It is always below the ground level. So the first important purpose for a foundation is to bear the load of the building. To bear the load of the building. The second one is to anchor the structure against natural disaster such as earthquake. To anchor the structure against natural disaster such as earthquake. That is where the word Igwisi used, firmness, comes in. To anchor the structure against natural disaster such as what? Earthquake. The third purpose is to isolate the building from ground moisture. If you check some houses where the foundation is not properly done, or the right foundation is not chosen, you notice that the moisture penetrates into the house. I don't know if you have seen that if you have seen somewhere like that before. You see the wall will always be wet. Underground moisture find their way into the wall and even into the floor of the building. So the essence of foundation is to bear load, the load of the building, to anchor the structure against natural disaster, and to isolate the building from ground moisture. Now, all these are important points that you need to know. Like, questions like this may come up in exam, most especially objective questions. So we need to become conversant with these points. Now, the next thing is type of foundation. Type of foundation. I want each of you to tell me one type of foundation that you know. One type of foundation that you know. Let me start with Iguisi. Tell me one type of foundation that you know.
I don't know.
Pitch.
Huh?
Sir, pitch.
He said,
Pitch. Or something like that.
I can't hear you.
Sir,
I can't hear you. Yes, Asui, let me hear you.
a hip.
Type of foundation, you are always smiling. I want to hear you. All right.
So,
All right. Types of foundation. Number one is strip foundation. The type of foundation, we have 4 types of foundation here. You may search and you have other type of foundation, but they are all embedded into these 4 types of foundation that we have on the screen. Strip foundation, pad foundation, raft foundation, and pile foundation. These are the major types of foundation that we have. Stripe foundation, pad foundation, raft foundation, and pile foundation. Each of these foundation have their kind of design. There's a way that they are constructed. That is why they differ from each other. And based on the factors we need to consider when choosing a foundation. Now, looking at those factors, each of these foundation has a particular place where they can be used. You don't just build a house and decide to use strip foundation without considering those factors. You don't just build a structure and use pad foundation or raft foundation or pile foundation. Remember that there are factors that you need to consider. And that is why we have different kind of foundation. So for the purpose of this class, we are going to be looking at the first one, which is the strip foundation. For the purpose of this class, we are going to be considering strip foundation. The strip foundation is also called traditional or common foundation. The strip foundation is also called traditional or common foundation. So when you hear the word traditional foundation or common foundation, we are all referring to what strip foundation, but the standard name for it is strip foundation. But when you hear traditional or common foundation, all still refer to what strip foundation, and is a continuous strip of concrete which provide a continuous ground bearing under the load bearing wall. Now, if you have been to, and this strip foundation is most commonly used in our homes. That's the most common type of, that is why you notice that from the word we say it could also be called traditional or common foundation, whereby continuous stripe of concrete is being poured on the excavated plan of the structure. How many of you have been to a site where foundation is being constructed? How many of you have seen where you start excavate from the beginning to the end of a structure, constructing a structure? How many of you have seen where foundation work is being done? Igusi, you have not.
No, sir.
What about you, Sui?
I've only seen the finished it.
Now, I told you in the last class, I told you that, especially I think it was Eguisi, I told that you try as much as possible to take a stroll to a nearby site. That was where we treated some building tools, building materials and tools, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you see something, go there and ask questions, and that is why you are an engineer in the making. You don't learn everything in the school. Try as much as possible to visit sites.
Okay.
Don't say don't just stay by the TV always or by your phones. Try as much as possible to please see them. When you see them, you get to understand them better. So please, if you have a site close to your area, try as much as possible, visit them and see what we are talking about, because you can only understand it when you see it. All right, now look at this diagram. This is a street, how street foundation is. Now, can you see the cursor?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Good. Now, this is a wall. This part you are seeing is a wall. And this other part, this is the street foundation. So now this is a concrete mix and pour around the excavated plan. And this is your wall erected. You can see the ground level. I'm very sure you are conversant with ground level from building drawing.
Yes, sir.
Good. So this is, you can see the ground level and you can see the wall. So the foundation is actually below the ground level. You can't just go to your house now and see the foundation. It's not exposed, right?
Yes, sir.
Foundations are not exposed. They are buried in the ground. But the purpose they serve is to bear the load of the building, of the structure. Now, this is a street foundation. Now we have another one. We have another one that you can see that this is also a street foundation. Now, this is a deep street foundation. You can see that the thickness of the foundation of this foundation is more than the first one. Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes,
Now
sir.
the thickness is more. The thickness of the first one is not up to the second foundation, but all are considered as what? As street foundation. So when you see diagrams like this, they are regarded as what? Street foundation. Now you can see the concrete and hardcore bed. This is the concrete and hardcore bed. Now this is a concrete foundation. The ground level is here. You can see what, now this is, you see what, we'll see come to explain this time, DPC, DPM. Who can tell me? I know we have talked about something like this before. There's no way you do building drawing that you have not heard about DPC and DPM. I want you to tell me the full meaning of DPC and the full meaning of DPM. Olorosi, DPC, let me hear from you. Eguisi, I'm waiting for, you are going to tell me the meaning of DPM when, after Olorosi have answered my question. DPC. All right, Iguisi, tell me any of the two, DPC or DPM. Please try, as you're at home, try as much as possible to study. Study beyond what you have been taught in the class, because your exam can come at any time. The time is already short. So please try as much as possible, study at home. All right, now let us look at terms associated with foundation. Terms associated, now you remember, Abi. Now, because you are seeing it on the screen now, you remember. Terms associated with foundation. A, DPC. DPC means damp-proof course. Damp-proof course. Damp-proof course. This is a type of moisture. This is a type of moisture control applied to building walls and floors to prevent moisture from passing into the interior part of the building. The full meaning of DPC is damp-proof course. Please take note of that. The full meaning of DPC is damp-proof course. Now, from the word damp-proof, you know it's there to protect what? To prevent dampness, to prevent moisture from gaining access into the structure, into the walls, and into the floor of the structure. So when you hear damp-proof course, DPC is just to prevent the access of moisture into the interior part of the building. So DPC means what? Damp-proof course, and is to what? Prevent moisture from passing into the interior part of the structure or of the building. B is DPM is what? Damp-proof membrane. The first one is damp-proof course, and this one is damp-proof membrane. Is a material applied to prevent moisture transmission. The two of them serve the same purpose. The two of them, damp-proof course and damp-proof membrane, all is to prevent what? Transmission of moisture into the building. The only difference is the material use. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
All right. I said damp-proof course and damp-proof membrane, they all have the same purpose. They serve the same purpose of preventing moisture from getting into the building, but the material use is what differentiates them. It's just like you are attending a school, and your brother is attending a different school. The two of you go to get education, but from different, possibly using a different method or from a different location. So damp-proof course and damp-proof membrane serve the same purpose. They prevent moisture from getting access to the building. And you know what damage the moisture can do? It weakens the building. It weakens the building. So the damp-proof course and the damp-proof membrane help in preventing the entrance of moisture, the transmission of moisture into the building. Sui. What did I say? What did I say? Is the difference between DPC and DPM? Olorun Sui.
Sir?
What did I say is the difference between damp-proof membrane and damp-proof cores? You are distracted.
The material used.
All right, very good. The material used. That's good. I thought you are distracted. All right. Now we look at differences between DPC and DPM. Differences between DPC and DPM. Now, DPC, we say, is a membrane inserted in the wall of a building to prevent moisture rising above it. DPC is a membrane inserted in the wall of a building to prevent moisture rising above it. DPC is a membrane inserted in the wall. Please take note of that word, wall, of a building to prevent moisture rising above it. That is why, because of that word, wall, that is why it is called DPC. That is why the word cause. Now, the cause, you know, when you are building, you put blocks in courses. First course, second, like that. That is how you lay block. You lay block in courses. That is why we have DPC. You lay blocks in what? In courses. So that is why it is called damp-proof course. So it is a membrane inserted in the wall to prevent moisture rising above the wall. So DPC has to do with wall. Are we together? Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. So know that DPC has to do with wall, and that is why it is wall. It is called DPC, damp-proof course. When you are erecting a wall, you lay your block in courses. Do you understand? So it is a membrane inserted in the wall of a building to prevent moisture from rising above it. That is to prevent moisture entering into the wall, the block. Do you understand? Now, if it's the moisture is getting access into the external wall, you know, we have external wall and we have internal walls, right?
Yes, sir.
Good. Now, if the moisture gain access into the wall, into the external wall or internal walls, it weakens the wall. It weakens the blocks that are laid in courses. And that can affect the building. That can affect the building. All right. The next one is from this now, from what we have discussed on DPC. Who can now tell me that of DPM? Who can tell me what DPM will be for? If the DPC is a membrane inserted in the wall of a building to prevent moisture from rising above it. Then what about DPM? Igusi.
Yes, sir. Let me try.
All right.
DPM is a membrane
Okay.
inserted in the wall of a building to prevent moisture rising below it.
No, you tried anyway, but no, that's not it. All right, let's go there and see. Now, DPM. Okay, before we. All right, now let's look. Okay, before we get there, it said the damp-proof course should cover the total wall thickness. That is, we are looking at the construction of the damp-proof course now. Should cover the total thickness of the wall. Do you understand? Now we are looking at how the construction of the damp-proof course is. So when you are constructing a damp-proof course, it should cover the total thickness of the wall. It should cover the thickness of the wall because you are protecting the wall. So any part of the wall must be protected. The concrete should be prepared in the quantitative ratio of 1:2 and 1:4. Now, this is the ratio of cement, sand, and stone chips. That is it means now from this, we know that what is used to construct a damp-proof course is the mixture of concrete, the mixture of cement, sand, and stone. Are you getting me at all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
From this information, now we know that the damp-proof course can be constructed using what? Using sand, cement, sand, and stone in the ratio of 1:2 and 1:4. Please put that at the back of your mind. Let it be in your head. And remember, we said that the damp-proof course must cover the total wall thickness. It must cover the thickness of the wall. All right. Now coming to DPM. We have talked about DPC, right? We have talked about DPC, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, DPM now. DPM is a continuous waterproof layer. Is a continuous waterproof layer, usually plastic, that may lay under a concrete floor. DPC is meant for what? For the wall, right? Please, I want you to observe. I want you to be observant in this thing. DPC, when we are talking about DPC, we are making reference to the wall. Now, when it comes to DPM, we say what is a continuous waterproof layer, usually plastic. The layer is usually what? Plastic that may lay under a concrete floor. Now, the subject is what? Floor. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Olorun, see, I can't hear you.
Yes, sir.
All right. So the damp-proof membrane is a kind of waterproof layer. Usually, we use leather. There's a particular leather we use. There's a particular leather that we use. You lay it on the floor. Please, who is this Daniel? I want to see Daniel. Who is this? I want to see your video. Otherwise, I will delete you. Who is that person? Aliu. All right. We say is a kind of, you use, there's this kind of, I don't know if you have seen this kind of big leather. It usually come in blue, you see it black, very wide. How many of you have seen it before? You know it, right? Now you lay it before you lay it on the floor before you do your flooring, before putting the concrete. Now this is separating it from the bare ground. So whatever moisture will not be able to gain access through that leather to the floor. You go to some houses, you notice that the ground is looking wet. It's not as if they pour water on the ground, but it's as a result of moisture penetrating the floor, the concrete floor. So you put this waterproof leather to cover the entire floor. Then before your concrete floor, before you do the concrete. So that is what DPM is all about. So the DPM is what? Is a waterproof membrane that covers the entire floor before the concrete floor. So this will prevent moisture from gaining access into the floor, into the building. Please put it in your head that we say DPC protects what? Sui, DPC protects the what?
Wall.
Wall. Oloro Sui, DPM protects where? What?
The wall.
DPM protects
The concrete floor.
the what?
The concrete floor.
The floor. The
Concrete
floor.
floor.
Aliu.
Sir.
DPC, before you, we are talking about foundation and we have gone far. Possibly when the notes get to you, you can recover.
Yes, sir.
We are talking about foundation, and at this level now we are on DPC, terms associated with foundation. We talk about DPC and DPM. DPC is damp-proof course, while DPM is damp-proof membrane. The damp-proof course is a kind of protection, a kind of prevention we give to the wall. We tend to protect the wall so that moisture will not gain access into the wall. That is why it is called DPC. Now the walls are always laid in courses. That is why it is called damp-proof course. So when you hear damp-proof course, it is associated with the wall to prevent the wall from what? From moisture.
Yes.
We say DPC is a membrane inserted in the wall of a building to prevent moisture from rising above it. DPC protects the wall from moisture rising above it, while DPM protects the what? The floor. The DPC has to do with the floor. Are you getting that now? Next time when you come late to the class, I won't take my time to explain to you because you know when the class is to start.
So I just got the link.
All right. So that is the difference between these two. DPC is damp-proof course. It has to do with the wall. DPM is damp-proof membrane. It has to do with the floor. And the two of them serve the same purpose, but in different places.
Yes, sir.
The DPC prevent moisture from gaining access to the wall, while the DPM prevent moisture from gaining access to the floor. And the material used for the two are different. I'm only saying this for the purpose of, for the sake of those that came late. And next time I won't do that. The purpose of the two is to prevent moisture, but they serve this purpose in different places. Damp-proof cores has to do with the wall. Damp-proof membrane has to do with the floor. The material used for the two are also different. Damp-proof cores, you need the mixture of concrete, the mixture of cement, sand, and stone chips. Stone chips to make the damp-proof cores, to construct the damp-proof cores. And the damp-proof cores must cover the thickness of the wall. Even if it is the wall of Jericho you are constructing, the damp-proof cores must cover it. It must cover the thickness of the wall. Ali, are you with me? Ali, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So it must cover the thickness of the wall. Now, the ratio in which the cement, the sand, and the stone chips are mixed is the ratio of 1:2 and 1:4. So, for instance, now let's assume you are using the way our local builders do it. If you are to construct, if you are using wheelbarrow to measure, it means when you have one wheelbarrow of cement, one wheelbarrow full of cement, then you use 2 wheelbarrow of sand, then 4 wheelbarrow of stone chips. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now our time is almost of I will have entered into the next type of foundation, but for today we are going to stop here. For today we are going to stop here. So now I'll quickly give you a recap by asking a question. Remember that we are talking about foundation. What is the purpose of foundation? What is the purpose of foundation? Olorunsuyi, what is the purpose of foundation? He said, I can't hear you.
To prevent moisture. To prevent moisture.
Foundation. The purpose of foundation.
Anna.
To keep the building
from ground moisture.
No.
Isolate the building from ground moisture.
To keep the building firm.
Very good. Somebody who is not in the class is giving me the answer. Igwisi, what do we say the purpose of foundation is? I say foundation is to bear load, to bear the load of the structure. Olorunsuyi, I saw you jotting. So what have you been jotting? Olorunsuyi.
You gave us 3.
Okay, you are telling me, I'm asking you the primary, okay, I don't know that you are going to that aspect, okay, if that is there, but what I wanted to hear from you is load bearing, the most important, okay, the major purpose of it is to bear load first. Do you understand? It's not as if you are wrong, but that is what I was expecting from you. Olorunsuyi. Olorunsuyi. All right. Do you understand me now? Do you understand me now? Good. So the primary aim of foundation is to bear load. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
All right. Then now, Egusi, please tell me the type of foundation that you know. Please, we are rounding up, please. Egusi. Aliu.
Sir.
Tell me one type of foundation that you know.
Sir.
Sir, is S3 foundation?
Yes, straight foundation. That's good. And that is the one we are talking about. That's very good. All right.
Sir.
Yes, Egusi.
Yes, sir, you're calling me.
Yes, I wanted you to tell me one type of foundation.
Okay.
All right, Egusi, now tell me what is DPC?
That damp-proof crop.
Very good. And where is it applied?
On the wall.
Very good. Egusi, DPM. What is DPM? Sui.
Damp-proof. Okay.
No, Sui, sorry. Oloro Sui. DPM. Oloro Sui.
Damp-proof membrane.
All right, Ali, where is damp-proof membrane applicable?
Sir, on the floors of the building.
Very good. God bless you. Thanks for coming, and may God bless you all in Jesus' name. Ali, pray for us as we close.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Father, I want to thank you for this class. I want to thank you for the little that we have learned. We say we will use it as a good use in our work in Jesus' name.
Amen.
And we shall succeed excessively in Jesus' name.
Amen.
And this set shall give CDA in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
For Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
Amen.
God bless you. You're welcome.
Until you pray.